Speaking of which, going on to our daily cancellation, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez moves into the prestigious position of being the most canceled person, at least on this show. And I think probably nationwide too. She's probably the most canceled person, and for good reason. This will be, I believe, her third or fourth cancellation. And here's why this one's happening. Check out the tweet. It says, COVID deaths are disproportionately spiking in Black and brown communities. Why? Because the chronic toll of redlining, environmental racism, wealth gap, etc., are underlying health conditions. Inequality is a comorbidity. COVID relief should be drafted with a lens of reparations. So she's tying in reparations with coronavirus relief. A lot to unpack here. First of all, what the hell is environmental racism? I've heard this phrase many times from kooky left-wingers. I still don't know what it is. And whatever it is, I would argue that white people are more often victims of it. For example, I know I get really bad sunburns when I go out in the summer. I could be outside for 3.5 seconds. Just in the time it takes me to get from my house to my car, I could be burned to a crisp. And whereas people with darker skin aren't as susceptible to that. So to me, that is environmental racism. That, or maybe we could call it solar racism. That is the sun singling me out for being pasty white and literally burning me, almost setting me on fire and burning me to death in an act of cosmic prejudice. So I think at least I have a claim also to being a victim of environmental racism. Second, the wealth gap is an underlying health condition. So now I guess if you go to the doctor for a physical and he runs some blood work and everything, and then he comes back, he might say, well, look, everything looks okay. You do have a slightly elevated blood pressure. We need to keep your cholesterol in check. And I'm afraid to say you have wealth gap. To use the more medical term, you're broke as a joke. So I could think of all kinds of places that can go, all kinds of Orwellian possibilities for treating being poor as an underlying health condition. But then third, we get to this thing where she's the whole idea of that coronavirus is affecting minority communities based on any kind of racism or whatever is obviously absurd. Why is that actually happening? Well, it's not hard to figure out because it's targeting cities. It's not targeting cities. It's just that it's affecting cities more than rural areas, not because of the race, the respective races of the people that live there, but because of population density. So it's not about race, Alexandria Cortez, it's about population density. And when you've got a lot of people living on top of each other and cramming themselves into subways and everything, it's gonna spread disease. Not just coronavirus, all kinds of other diseases too. Whereas if you live out in the country and you're more spread out, there's not as much of a risk there. So that's really all there is to it. And I could pretty much guarantee you that any minorities who live in rural areas, which plenty do, they're gonna be in the same spot as the white people who live in those same areas. Hey, you right there. Hit the subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It's somewhat appreciated.